Beneath Arlington's mournful sky, a black female general, forged in war's crucible, faces a loaded gun at her son's funeral, held by an American cop blinded by prejudice. Her stars shine, yet her skin marks her as a threat, shattering a sacred farewell. As outrage ignites and secrets unravel, a nation confronts its soul. Will justice prevail, or will bias bury the truth? Dive into this gripping saga of resilience and reckoning. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for heart-pounding stories that expose injustice and celebrate unbreakable spirits. The gray dawn over Arlington National Cemetery hung heavy, a somber veil that seemed to mourn alongside the gathered crowd. The air was thick with the weight of loss, the kind that clawed at the chest and silenced the world. General Cassandra Hayes, a towering figure in her Navy dress uniform, stood as a monument of resilience, her 4 stars gleaming like beacons of her historic rise as the first black woman to reach such rank in the U.S. Army. Yet today, those stars felt hollow, overshadowed by the polished mahogany casket before her, holding her only son, Lieutenant Caleb Hayes, 30, killed by a roadside bomb in Helmand. The military band's mournful notes drifted through the mist, and a row of soldiers lined the path to Section 12, their rifles angled in solemn tribute. Cassandra's medals, a testament to decades of sacrifice, glinted under the overcast sky, but her heart fractured with each step, her breath shallow as she fought to honor Caleb's wish. "Mom, if I go, stand tall in your stars." In the black SUV, she clutched a program bearing Caleb's photo, his grin wide, his fatigues crisp, a frozen moment of pride that now felt like a cruel mirage. Her brother, Leon Brooks, a retired mechanic with calloused hands, sat beside her, his voice a low rumble. "You're doing this for him, Cass. He's watching you." "I can't feel him," Cassandra whispered, her voice brittle, her eyes fixed on the casket through the window. "I've buried soldiers, Leon, but this is my boy." "You're stronger than this pain," Leon said, his hand covering hers. "But it ain't right, none of it." Her sister-in-law, Marla, leaned forward from the back seat, her voice trembling. "We're here, Cass. You don't have to do this alone." Cassandra nodded, her jaw tight, but inside she was unraveling, each heartbeat a reminder of Caleb's absence. The SUV door opened, and she stepped onto the pavement, her heels clicking with military precision, the sound echoing like a metronome of grief. Her uniform drew immediate attention, salutes from soldiers, whispers from mourners who recognized her as a legend, a trailblazer. But fame meant nothing today. She was a mother walking into a nightmare. As she approached the gravesite, her gaze caught on a police officer pacing near a patrol car, its engine idling, parked crookedly on the curb. His hand rested near his holster, his mirrored sunglasses glinting despite the gloom, and a chill ran through her, a combat-honed instinct flaring. "Hey, you!" Officer Derek Walsh's voice cut through the air, sharp and commanding. "ID, right now!" Cassandra froze, her breath catching, her mind racing to process the absurdity. She turned slowly, her voice calm but laced with steel. "I'm General Cassandra Hayes, United States Army. I'm here for my son's funeral." Walsh strode toward her, his hand now gripping his gun, his tone aggressive. "I don't care what you call yourself. Show me ID, or we've got a problem." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, mourners exchanging shocked glances. Leon stepped out of the SUV, his voice low but firm. "Officer, you're talking to a 4-star general. You need to stand down." "Stay out of it, old man," Walsh snapped, his eyes darting to Leon, his posture tense. "Hands up, lady, or this gets ugly." Cassandra raised her hand slowly, her metals clinking softly, her voice steady despite the surreal horror. "I'm unarmed. This is my dress uniform. My family is right there." She nodded toward Marla, who stood frozen, her eyes wide with fear. "Shut up and show me ID," Walsh barked, his gun half drawn, the barrel glinting in the dim light. A child in the crowd whimpered, and a mourner gasped, the tension coiling like a spring. Marla's voice broke, a desperate plea. "Please, she's burying her son. Why are you doing this?" Cassandra's eyes locked onto Walsh's, her voice rising, clear and commanding. "Officer, you're pointing a weapon at a mother on the worst day of her life. Think about what you're doing." Walsh sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You think that uniform scares me? I've seen fakes before. Step away from the vehicle, now." Leon's fists clenched, his voice a growl. "You're making a mistake you won't walk back from. Lower that gun." A soldier from the honor guard, his face taut, glanced at his superior, who signaled restraint, but the air crackled with the threat of chaos. Mourners began whispering, some pulling out phones, their cameras capturing the unfolding nightmare. Cassandra's mind flashed to Caleb's last letter, his words scrawled in hurried ink. "Mom, you're my hero. Keep fighting." She drew a steadying breath, her voice unwavering. "I'm reaching for my military ID, slowly. Don't make this worse." "Don't move!" Walsh shouted, his gun now fully drawn, aimed at her chest, his finger hovering near the trigger. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath as time seemed to slow. A young woman in the back, a friend of Caleb's, whispered to her husband, "This can't be happening, not to General Hayes." Cassandra's hands remained raised, her eyes never leaving Walsh's. "I've faced enemies overseas," she said, her voice resonant, carrying the weight of her service. "I've walked through fire for this country. You're not my enemy, but you're wrong." Walsh's lip curled, his voice low and menacing. "You don't belong here. On your knees, hands on your head." The command was a gut punch, stripping away the dignity of her rank, her grief, her humanity. Marla sobbed, her voice barely audible. "Cassandra, please, just do what he says." Leon stepped closer, his voice a warning. "You're crossing a line, officer. You don't know who you're dealing with. Back off or you're under arrest." Walsh swung the gun toward Leon, his eyes wild with adrenaline. The crowd shifted, mourners pulling children behind them, their faces a mix of horror and disbelief. An elderly veteran in a wheelchair, his voice hoarse, shouted, "That's General Hayes, you damn fool! Show some respect!" Cassandra's heart pounded, but her training held her steady, her voice a beacon of calm. "Officer Walsh, my son died for this country. I'm here to honor him. Put the gun down and let us grieve." The standoff stretched, a fragile thread ready to snap. The cemetery's sacred silence shattered by the threat of violence. The band's music faltered, and the soldiers' rifles wavered, their discipline tested by the unfolding tragedy. Cassandra stood tall, her stars a silent testament to her sacrifice. But in Walsh's eyes, she saw only suspicion, a prejudice that saw her skin before her service, her grief before her rank. The gray mist of Arlington National Cemetery thickened, shrouding the mourners in a suffocating silence broken only by the faint hum of a distant military band. The casket of Lieutenant Caleb Hayes gleamed under the overcast sky, a silent sentinel awaiting its final descent, but the sacred moment was fractured. General Cassandra Hayes stood with her hands raised, her Navy uniform pristine, her 4 stars glinting like a challenge to the chaos unfolding. Officer Derek Walsh's gun, still aimed at her chest, cast a shadow over the gravesite, his mirrored sunglasses reflecting the stunned faces of the crowd. The air crackled with tension, a volatile mix of grief and outrage, as mourners held their breath, their phones trembling as they recorded the unthinkable. Leon Brooks, Cassandra's brother, stood rigid, his fists clenched, while Marla, her sister-in-law, stifled sobs, her hands clasped in desperate prayer. The honor guard, their rifles angled, wavered under the weight of restraint, their eyes darting to their commander for guidance. Walsh's voice, sharp and unyielding, echoed again, a command that stripped away dignity. I said, on your knees, hands on your head, now. Cassandra's pulse thundered, but her face remained a mask of resolve, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. You're holding a funeral hostage, officer, my son's funeral. Lower your weapon. Walsh's grip tightened, his voice a snarl. Don't lecture me. You move, you're done. Final warning. Leon took a step forward, his voice low but fierce. You're pointing a gun at a grieving mother. You think that badge makes you untouchable? Shut it or you're in cuffs. Walsh swung the gun toward Leon, his stance aggressive, his focus splintering. The crowd gasped, a young boy clinging to his mother as she whispered, "This is wrong, so wrong." Marla's voice broke, a desperate plea. "Please stop this. She's not a threat. She's burying her child." A mourner, a middle-aged woman who'd served with Caleb, stepped forward, her voice trembling but defiant. "Officer, that's General Hayes. She's a hero, not a criminal." Walsh's head snapped toward her, his voice venomous. "Back off, all of you. I'm in charge here." His finger twitched near the trigger, and the crowd recoiled, the tension a taut wire ready to snap. Cassandra's eyes flicked to the casket, Caleb's photo on the program burning in her memory. She spoke, her voice steady, a commander addressing a battlefield. "I've faced death in war zones. I've led soldiers through hell. You don't scare me, but you're stealing my son's peace." Walsh sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "War stories don't mean squat. You're nobody here." The insult landed like a blow, but Cassandra didn't flinch. A soldier from the honor guard, a young sergeant named Marcus Tate, shifted, his voice low but urgent to his superior. "Sir, we've got to do something. This is General Hayes." "Stand fast," the commander hissed, his eyes locked on Walsh. "We can't risk a firefight." Suddenly, a new voice pierced the standoff, sharp and authoritative. "Walsh, drop that gun." Lieutenant Tara Voss, a traffic coordinator with a no-nonsense glare, sprinted from the cemetery's entrance, her boots pounding the pavement. "You're threatening a 4-star general." Walsh's gun wavered, his voice defiant. "She's not cooperating. I'm handling it." "You're handling nothing," Voss snapped, closing the distance. "Holster that weapon or I'll make you." She reached him, her hand poised to act, her eyes blazing with fury. Walsh's face flushed, his voice a growl. "You're out of line, Voss. She's a suspect." "A suspect?" Voss's voice rose, incredulous. "She's burying her son. Stand down now." She shoved his arm upward, the gun flying from his grip and skidding across the pavement with a metallic clatter. Walsh lunged for it, but Voss was faster, twisting his arm behind his back. "You're done!" she shouted as 2 officers rushed to restrain him, dragging him toward a squad car. Sergeant Lena Carter, a former subordinate of Cassandra's, darted to her side, her voice gentle but firm. "Ma'am, let me help you up." She steadied Cassandra, who rose slowly, her knees aching, her uniform smudged with dirt. The crowd exhaled, murmurs of relief mingling with outrage. Cassandra's eyes found Caleb's casket, its polished surface a stark reminder of the moment stolen. "This was his day," she whispered, her voice cracking. "He deserved better." Lena squeezed her arm, her voice fierce. "He's still getting it, ma'am. We'll make sure of it." Leon approached, his voice thick with anger. "That fool saw your skin and nothing else. He didn't even look at your stars." Marla, tears streaming, hugged Cassandra tightly. "You're okay, thank God. But how does this happen?" Cassandra didn't answer, her gaze distant, fixed on Walsh, now cuffed in the squad car, his face blank. A reporter, having slipped past security, called out, "General, what happened here? Can you comment?" Leon blocked the reporter, his voice a growl. "Give her space. This ain't your story yet." Inside the squad car, Walsh muttered to an officer, his voice low. "She didn't act right. Didn't look like she fit." The officer, uncomfortable, glanced away, but a nearby mourner overheard, her phone already streaming the words to thousands. Tara Voss approached Cassandra, her voice apologetic. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. He wasn't even assigned to security, just traffic overflow. This shouldn't have happened." Cassandra nodded, her voice hollow. "It did happen, Lieutenant, and it's not just about him." Her words carried a weight that silenced Voss, who stepped back, her face etched with shame. The crowd parted as a senior officer, Captain Elias Reed, arrived, his voice urgent. "General Hayes, we're suspending Walsh pending investigation, I assure you." "Assurances don't undo this," Cassandra interrupted, her voice sharp. "My son's funeral is in ruins because of one man's prejudice. Fix that, Captain." Reed swallowed, nodding. "Yes, ma'am, we'll make this right." Lena leaned in, her voice low. "Ma'am, let's get you to the tent. The press is swarming and you need a moment." Cassandra shook her head, her voice resolute. "I'm not hiding. Caleb's waiting." She straightened, her uniform a symbol of defiance, and took a step toward the casket, the crowd parting like a sea. But the damage was done. The sanctity of the moment shattered, the grief now tangled with a public spectacle. As phones captured every angle, Cassandra sensed the storm brewing, a battle she hadn't chosen but would fight for her son's honor. The gray shroud over Arlington National Cemetery deepened, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and unspoken fury. The casket of Lieutenant Caleb Hayes stood untouched, a silent witness to the chaos that had erupted moments ago. General Cassandra Hayes, her Navy uniform smudged but her posture unyielding, walked toward a small tent set up for privacy, her heels sinking slightly into the grass. The crowd of mourners, soldiers, families, and friends parted silently, their faces etched with a mix of sorrow and disbelief, their phones still recording the aftermath of Officer Derek Walsh's aggression. Sirens wailed as more police arrived, their flashing lights cutting through the mist, while reporters breached the cemetery's gates, their cameras hungry for the story unfolding. Inside the tent, Cassandra sat, her hands clasped tightly, her 4 stars glinting under the dim light. Leon Brooks, her brother, stood by the entrance, his eyes scanning the growing chaos outside, while Marla, her sister-in-law, hovered nearby, her hands trembling as she clutched a tissue. Sergeant Lena Carter, Cassandra's former subordinate, remained close, her presence a steady anchor. The sacred ritual of Caleb's funeral was now a fractured memory, replaced by a public spectacle that threatened to overshadow his sacrifice. Outside, the cemetery buzzed with frenetic energy. A young woman, Private Aisha Monroe, who'd served with Caleb in Helmand, stood on the grass, her phone raised, live streaming to thousands. "This is what they did to General Hayes," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "A mother, a 4-star general, held at gunpoint at her son's funeral. This is America's shame." Her stream exploded, comments flooding in, the hashtag Justice for Hayes already trending. Inside the tent, Cassandra's voice was low, almost a whisper. "Caleb's moment. It's gone. Stolen." Leon turned, his voice thick with rage. "That cop didn't just steal from you, Cass. He disrespected every soldier here. Caleb deserved better." Marla's eyes brimmed with tears, her voice soft. "How do we even go on? The whole world's watching now." Lena knelt beside Cassandra, her voice firm. "We finished this for Caleb, ma'am. You taught me to keep moving no matter what. We'll do it together." Cassandra nodded, her jaw tight, but her eyes were distant, replaying the glint of Walsh's gun. "He looked at me like I was nothing," she said. "Not a general, not a mother, just a threat." Before anyone could respond, Captain Elias Reed, the senior officer coordinating security, entered, his face pale. "General, I've got the chief of Arlington PD on the line. They want to issue a statement, but I need your input." Cassandra's gaze sharpened, her voice cold. "A statement? They let a man with a badge turn my son's funeral into a circus. Tell them to save their words until they've got answers." Reed hesitated, then nodded. "Understood, ma'am. Walsh is in custody and we're pulling his records. This won't be swept under the rug." "It better not," Leon snapped, stepping forward. "You think a press release fixes this? That man humiliated my sister in front of her son's grave." Reed's voice was strained. "I know, sir. We're moving as fast as we can." Outside, Aisha's live stream drew a crowd, mourners gathering around her, their voices rising. "She's a hero," a veteran shouted, his medals clinking, "and they treated her like a criminal."
A reporter, a young man with a notepad, pushed through, calling out, "Private Monroe, is General Hayes speaking to the press? What's her next move?" Aisha turned, her voice fierce. "Her next move? She's grieving her son, something you vultures wouldn't understand. Ask that cop why he saw a black woman and reached for his gun." The reporter backed off, but the crowd's anger swelled, their chants of justice for Hayes echoing across the cemetery. Inside the tent, Cassandra overheard, her hands clenching. "They're turning this into a cause," she said, her voice low. "Caleb's not a hashtag." Lena's voice was gentle but resolute. "He's not, ma'am, but what happened to you matters. People are angry because they see you, your service, your pain." Marla wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. "Cass, they're fighting for you out there. Let them." Cassandra shook her head, her voice raw. "I didn't ask for a fight. I just wanted to say goodbye." The tent flap rustled, and Lieutenant Tara Voss entered, her uniform slightly disheveled from restraining Walsh. "General, I've got something you need to hear," she said, her voice urgent. "One of the mourners overheard Walsh in the squad car. He said, 'She didn't belong here.' It's on video, spreading fast." Cassandra's breath caught, her voice icy. "He didn't belong here. Not with a gun, not with that hate." Voss nodded, her voice tight. "There's more. Walsh has a history. 2 complaints for excessive force, both involving black civilians. The department buried them." Leon's voice erupted, a growl. "Buried them? And they let him carry a badge to a soldier's funeral?" Voss's eyes flashed with anger. "I'm digging into it, sir. He wasn't even supposed to be near the gravesite, just traffic control. Someone screwed up, big time." Cassandra stood, her voice commanding. "Find out who, Lieutenant. I want names, not excuses." Voss saluted, her voice firm. "Yes, ma'am, I'm on it." She left, her boots echoing with purpose. Outside, the chaos intensified. A second reporter, a woman with a microphone, cornered Captain Reed. "Captain, is it true Arlington PD failed to brief officers on General Hayes' attendance? Was this racial profiling?" Reed's voice was clipped, defensive. "We're investigating all angles. That's all I can say." The reporter pressed, her voice sharp. "Investigating? A mother was threatened at gunpoint. The public's demanding answers now." Aisha, still streaming, turned her phone toward the casket, her voice breaking. "This was supposed to be about Lieutenant Hayes, a hero who died for us. Instead, his mother's fighting for her life. Shame on us all." Inside the tent, Cassandra's hands trembled, but her resolve hardened. "I need to see him," she said, her voice low. Caleb's waiting. Leon's voice softened, urgent. Cass, the press is a mob out there. Let us handle them first. No, Cassandra said, her voice unwavering. I'm not hiding from this. Not today. She adjusted her hat, her stars catching the light, and stepped toward the tent's entrance, her heart a battlefield of grief and defiance. The crowd hushed as she emerged, their eyes fixed on her, a symbol of resilience in a moment of national disgrace. The reporters surged forward, but Cassandra's presence held them at bay, her silence louder than their questions. The funeral was broken, but her fight for Caleb's honor was just beginning.
The mist over Arlington National Cemetery clung to the ground, a ghostly veil amplifying the raw tension that pulsed through the crowd. The casket of Lieutenant Caleb Hayes remained untouched, its polished surface reflecting the flickering lights of police cars now swarming Section 12. General Cassandra Hayes stood just outside the privacy tent, her Navy uniform a beacon of defiance, her 4 stars gleaming despite the smudge of dirt on their sleeve. The mourners, soldiers, veterans, and families watched her with a mix of reverence and rage, their phones still capturing the aftermath of the standoff that had desecrated a sacred farewell. Reporters, emboldened by the viral livestream, pressed closer, their microphones thrusting forward like weapons. Leon Brooks, Cassandra's brother, flanked her, his eyes scanning the chaos, while Marla, her sister-in-law, lingered nearby, her face streaked with tears. Sergeant Lena Carter, ever loyal, stood ready to shield her former commander. The air was electric, charged with grief, outrage, and the promise of reckoning. Private Aisha Monroe's live stream, now viewed by millions, had ignited a firestorm, her words, "This is America's shame," echoing across the nation. Cassandra's gaze lingered on the casket, her heart a knot of sorrow and resolve. "We need to finish this," she said, her voice low but commanding. "Caleb's waiting." Leon's hand rested on her shoulder, his voice thick. "Cass, the world's watching. You step out there, it's not just a funeral anymore, it's a statement." "Let it be," Cassandra replied, her tone steely. "I'm not letting this day end in their hands." Marla's voice trembled, urgent. "But the press, they'll twist it. They always do. What if they make it about you, not Caleb?" Lena stepped forward, her voice firm. "They can try, but we'll make sure Caleb's story stays front and center. Right, ma'am?" Cassandra nodded, her eyes distant. "Right, but this isn't just about us. It's about every soldier who's ever been disrespected." Outside, the crowd's chants grew louder, "Justice for Hayes," reverberating like a war drum. Aisha, still streaming, turned her phone toward the growing throng, her voice raw. "Look at this. Veterans, families, all here for Lieutenant Hayes. His mother, a general, was treated like a criminal. We won't let this go." A reporter, a woman with a sharp gaze, broke through, her voice cutting. "Private Monroe, is General Hayes planning to sue Arlington PD? What's her response to the officer's actions?" Aisha's eyes blazed, her voice fierce. "Ask the cop why he pulled a gun on a grieving mother. Ask why a black woman in uniform is a threat in his eyes." The reporter pivoted, spotting Cassandra emerging from the tent. "General, will you address the incident? Is this racial profiling?" Leon blocked her path, his voice a growl. "Back off. She's here for her son, not your headlines." Cassandra raised a hand, signaling calm, her voice clear. "I'll speak when I'm ready. Right now, this is about Caleb." Her words silenced the reporter, but the cameras kept rolling. Captain Elias Reed approached, his face taut, flanked by Lieutenant Tara Voss. "General, we've got a problem," Reed said, his voice low. "Walsh, his supervisor, just arrived. He's claiming it was a protocol error. No one briefed Walsh on VIP attendees." Cassandra's eyes narrowed, her voice icy. "A protocol error? He aimed a gun at my chest. That's not a mistake. It's a choice." Voss nodded, her voice tight. I checked his assignment, ma'am. He was supposed to stay at the outer perimeter, not near the gravesite. Someone sent him here. Who? Cassandra demanded, her voice sharp. I want answers, not cover-ups. Reed hesitated, his voice strained. We're tracing the order, but it came from higher up. Could be a scheduling mix-up or something else. Leon's voice erupted. Something else? You mean someone wanted this to happen? Who's pulling strings? Voss's jaw clenched, her voice resolute. I'm digging, sir. If there's a paper trail, I'll find it. A new voice interrupted, urgent and panicked. General Hayes! Private Marcus Tate, the honor guard sergeant, rushed forward, his face pale. Ma'am, we just found Walsh's body cam footage. It's bad, really bad. Cassandra's breath caught, her voice low. What's on it? Tate swallowed, his voice shaking. He was muttering before he approached you, said, gotta keep an eye on her kind. It's clear he targeted you from the start. The revelation hit like a shockwave, the crowd nearby catching fragments, their murmurs turning to roars. Aisha, overhearing, turned her phone to Tate, her voice trembling. Say that again for the world, Sergeant. What did Walsh say? Tate repeated, his voice steady now. He said, her kind. He saw General Hayes and decided she was trouble before she even stepped out of the car. The live stream exploded, comments flooding in, the outrage palpable. A veteran in the crowd, his medals glinting, shouted, "That's not just bias, that's hate. Fire him now." Cassandra's hands clenched, her voice a controlled storm. He didn't just disrespect me, he disrespected every soldier who wears this uniform. Lena's voice was fierce. Ma'am, that footage changes everything. It's proof of intent. We can bury him with this. Reed's face darkened, his voice urgent. General, if that footage leaks, it'll spark riots. We need to control the release. Cassandra's gaze met his, unyielding. Control? The truth doesn't wait for your permission, Captain. Let it burn. Marla's voice broke, desperate. Cass, what if it gets worse? What if they come after you? They already did, Cassandra said, her voice resolute. I'm not running. The crowd surged as more reporters arrived, their shouts drowning out the band's faltering notes. A news van screeched to a halt, its crew spilling out. A second veteran, a woman with a prosthetic arm, climbed onto a bench, her voice booming. General Hayes served us all. This is what she gets. We demand justice. Aisha's stream hit millions, her voice cracking. This isn't just about one cop. It's about a system that lets this happen. General, we're with you. Cassandra stepped forward, the crowd parting, her presence a quiet command. Enough, she said, her voice carrying over the chaos. This day belongs to my son. We bury him now. The mourners hushed, but the tension remained, a coiled spring. Reed signaled the honor guard, who resumed their positions, their movements deliberate but shaken. The casket loomed, a stark reminder of the purpose stolen. Cassandra approached it, her hand brushing the wood, her voice a whisper. I'm here, Caleb. We'll finish this. Leon stood beside her, his voice low. You're stronger than all of them, Cass, but this fight's just starting. Voss approached, her voice urgent. Ma'am, I found the order sending Walsh here. It came from a deputy chief, no explanation. I'm pulling his call logs. Cassandra's eyes flashed, her voice cold. Keep digging, Lieutenant. Someone wanted me humiliated. I want to know why. The funeral resumed, a hollow echo of its intended honor, the crowd's anger simmering beneath the surface. Aisha lowered her phone, her voice soft but resolute. This isn't over. For Lieutenant Hayes, for General Hayes, we keep fighting. As the casket descended, Cassandra's stars gleamed, a symbol of resilience against a system that had failed her. The cameras rolled, the nation watched, and the truth, raw, undeniable, set the stage for a reckoning that would shake the foundations of justice. The gray clouds over Arlington National Cemetery had parted, but the weight of the day lingered, a scar etched into the hearts of those who witnessed the fractured farewell to Lieutenant Caleb Hayes. Months later, Courtroom 6B in Alexandria's U.S. District Court pulsed with a different kind of tension, its wooden benches packed with veterans, military families, and journalists, their faces a mosaic of anticipation and resolve. General Cassandra Hayes sat in the front row, dressed in a simple black blazer, her 4 stars absent but her presence commanding. The trial of Officer Derek Walsh, now a national flashpoint, had drawn the eyes of a country grappling with its reflection. Leon Brooks, her brother, sat beside her, his hands clasped tightly, while Marla, her sister-in-law, whispered prayers under her breath. Sergeant Lena Carter, a steadfast ally, scanned the room, her eyes sharp. Outside, protesters stood in silent vigil, their signs, "She served, he aimed," a stark reminder of the injustice that had sparked a movement. The viral body cam footage capturing Walsh's damning words had ignited a firestorm, and today, the truth would face its reckoning. The courtroom hushed as Walsh entered, his gray suit ill-fitting, his face a mask of defiance. His attorney, Paul Renner, stood, his voice smooth but strained. "My client acted under pressure, misjudging a high-stress situation. There was no malicious intent." Cassandra's jaw tightened, her voice a whisper to Leon. No intent? He chose to see a threat where there was none. Leon's voice was low, fierce. "He's lying through his teeth, Cass. The jury's gotta see it." The prosecution, led by a sharp-eyed attorney named Elena Ruiz, rose, her voice resonant. "This case isn't about a mistake. It's about a pattern of prejudice that turned a soldier's funeral into a battlefield." She cued the body cam footage, and the room darkened, the screen flickering to life. Walsh's muttered words, "Gotta keep an eye on her kind," echoed, followed by his aggressive commands. The jury's faces hardened, some visibly shaken. Marla's hand gripped Cassandra's, her voice trembling. How could he say that? How could he think it? Lena leaned in, her voice steady. "Because he's done it before, ma'am. That's why we're here." Ruiz called Lieutenant Tara Voss to the stand, her uniform crisp, her testimony unflinching. "Walsh ignored my orders to stand down," she said, her voice clear. "Even after I identified General Hayes, he kept his weapon trained on her. I had no choice but to disarm him." Renner stood, his tone skeptical. "You used excessive force, Lieutenant, escalating a tense situation, didn't you?" Voss's eyes flashed, her voice cutting. "I stopped a man from shooting an unarmed mother. If that's escalation, then your client's the one who started it." The gallery murmured, a ripple of approval. Leon whispered, "She's got him on the ropes." Next, Private Aisha Monroe took the stand, her voice steady but emotional. "I served with Lieutenant Hayes. I was streaming that day because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A general, a mother, treated like a criminal. That video waked people up." Renner pressed, his voice sharp. "You amplified a volatile situation, Private. Didn't your live stream incite public unrest?" Aisha's gaze didn't waver. It showed the truth. If that's unrest, maybe we need more of it. The prosecution's bombshell came next, internal records revealing Walsh's history. 8 complaints of excessive force, 5 involving black civilians, all dismissed or buried. Ruiz held up a photo of Caleb, his bronze star gleaming. This man died for his country. His mother deserved to mourn in peace, not to face a gun for the color of her skin. The jury's eyes glistened, and Cassandra's hands trembled, her voice a whisper. "Caleb's watching, isn't he?" Marla nodded, her voice soft. "He's proud of you, Cass. You're fighting for him." Cassandra took the stand, her presence a quiet storm. "I didn't come here for vengeance," she said, her voice steady, locking eyes with the jury. "I came so no other soldier's family faces what I did. I served this country for 35 years, but that day, my uniform didn't protect me. It didn't protect my son's memory." Renner stood, his tone cautious. "General, you're a decorated officer. Couldn't your demeanor have been perceived as confrontational?" Cassandra's gaze pierced him, her voice resonant. "I was grieving, not confronting. If standing tall in my stars is a threat, then your client's bias is the real danger." Walsh looked away, his composure cracking, a fleeting glimpse of shame. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, the courtroom thick with tension. The verdict came swiftly, guilty on all counts: aggravated assault, civil rights violation, abuse of authority. The judge's voice was grave. "Derek Walsh, you are sentenced to life without parole. This court stands with justice." The gallery exhaled, a heavy silence settling. Leon squeezed Cassandra's hand, his voice low. "You did it, Cass, for Caleb." Cassandra's eyes glistened, her voice soft. "It's not done yet." On the courthouse steps, reporters swarmed, their questions relentless. "General, is this justice? Will you sue the department? What's next?" Cassandra faced them, her blazer catching the breeze, her voice unwavering. "This isn't about one man's actions. It's about a system that let him carry a badge after 8 complaints. My son believed in service, in sacrifice. I'm fighting for a country where no one fears grieving because of who they are." A reporter pressed, her voice sharp. "Are you calling for police reform, General?" Cassandra's gaze was steady. "I'm calling for accountability, for training that sees humanity, not color, for a nation that honors its heroes, not just in death, but in life." The crowd cheered, veterans raising fists, their unity a testament to her impact. Lena approached, her voice proud. "Ma'am, your words, they're changing things already." Marla hugged her, her voice breaking. "Caleb's smiling, Cass. I know it." Weeks later, Cassandra visited Caleb's grave, a sunflower in hand, the stone cool under her touch. "I kept fighting, son," she whispered, her voice soft. "For you, for all of us." She stood, her strength not in healing, but in carrying the weight forward. Her testimony sparked reforms: mandatory bias training, stricter oversight for officer complaints. Aisha's live stream inspired a national dialogue, taught in schools, cited in Congress. Cassandra returned to a quiet life, but her voice lingered, a beacon for justice. Like, share, subscribe to our channel for stories of courage that demand to be heard. The story of General Cassandra Hayes at her son Caleb's funeral unveils profound lessons about resilience, justice, and confronting systemic prejudice. Cassandra's courage under a gun's threat exposes the harsh reality of racial bias, showing how even a decorated 4-star general can be reduced to a stereotype. Her stand, rooted in dignity, challenges us to recognize and dismantle assumptions that dehumanize based on skin color. Caleb's sacrifice and Cassandra's fight highlight the cost of service and the need for accountability in systems that fail to protect. The viral outrage and Walsh's conviction underscore the power of collective action, amplified by truth-tellers like Aisha, proving that one voice can spark a movement. This narrative urges us to question authority, demand reform, and honor every individual's worth, regardless of appearance or status. Cassandra's refusal to be silenced, even in grief, teaches that strength lies in speaking truth, no matter the cost. Her legacy, carried forward in policy changes and public discourse, reminds us that justice requires vigilance and empathy. We must build a world where no one fears mourning, serving, or simply existing. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that ignite reflection, challenge injustice, and inspire action to create a more equitable future.